Right now you can see that it's still a little bit lumpy, so I'm just going to go in to the different splines and just tweak those just a little bit. Maybe make this one a little bit wider. And you just want to look at your artwork as well and just make sure it's matching up. So I want to make sure that this is quite wide at the end. I want to have him, he's going to have these big hands. So something like that. And once we get to that point, we can come in and make this into a polygon. But the first thing we want to do is make sure that the geometry is the way that we want. So let's go in, and on the loft itself, I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to mess with the mesh subdivision, actually, to get fewer lines coming across here. I don't want to have quite so many lines. And we can also decrease the number kind of going around the side. So I just want enough to get the shape of this, but I want to have as few as possible so that I can go in and really edit this. I'm going to turn on organic form, kind of straighten out some of those lines there. So I think something like that should work. I've got 18 by 2. And so it's giving us a nice clean edge flow that's not too high res for us to work with. So we can take this loft, and I showed you how you can just make that editable. We can also say current state to object. And what that will do is create a copy of that and leave our original loft alone. So if we wanted to ever go back and change this loft, we would have the ability to do that. Let me turn off the visibility of that original loft in our view and also in the render, and now we can work with our copy. So there's two ways to do that. If you want to keep your original, you can do that current state to object. Now we want to go ahead and fill in this opening with a polygon. So I'm going to come in and I want to use the close polygon hole. So I'll close that up, and then I want to use the knife. So let's grab our knife, and I want to change this to line, and we'll just do single line. And I'm just going to come across here and draw that in across the front side there. So we get something like that, and let's do that down here as well. And we'll fill that one in. You can see we have one extra line coming across here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a loop coming across just so that it matches up. And let me add that line first. Oops. Coming across here. And I'll just add that coming across the middle, and this will allow us to make it a little bit smoother on the front as well. And now let's select the polygons that we want to cut here. So we'll just do that. And then go back to our knife. Let's restrict it to our selection. So it's just going to cut right through there, and then we'll use that line once again here. And let's turn that off. Okay, now we'll select our edges. Just like that. And let's kind of pull those out a little bit. Let's grab these points on the corners. Let's pull those back towards the edge and then just kind of scale them in a little. Pull them up a bit. Just kind of smoothing this edge off, and you may not be able to move them both at the same time. We can also do that same thing up here where we've got this kind of harder edge. do the same thing on the bottom. Now I do want to have a sort of a seam running along the side there. So kind of right, I think it's going to be right along here is where it's going to be running. And so let's go back to our knife and let's add a loop. And let's add it kind of right along there. Okay, and then we can take that loop. So let's select, and let's actually, I'm going to wait on the loop itself. I'm going to take this edge up the side here. So we'll go to edge selection, and I want to select loop and select boundary loop. So select that. Let's do an extrude. Right click, extrude that in, making sure our edge angle is set. And we want it to be, let's set this, come on here, minus 90 actually. Okay, and then we'll come in, and we know we're going to smooth it, so let's just add another edge loop back here, and one right there. Now we'll take and create our seam. So select loop, and let's try to select our loop here. Loop selection. Oh, turn off boundary. There we go. And now we can extrude that, and we just want to extrude it in just slightly. Now when we smooth it, we should get something close to what we want. So you can see what that looks like there. We get a nice little seam coming across, and then we get a little bit more of a rounded shape on the end. So it matches up fairly well, I think. So the next thing that we want to do now that we've got our forearm built is go ahead and build the fingers and ultimately the hand.